Go back to the YouTube screen. All right, excellent connection. So it's restreamed. Oh, there we go. We just popped up. So we've been live for like a minute and a half, just waiting for that to pop up. I'm not sure what that was.
Chris, can you stop swearing now? That'd be nice. Thank you.
Chris was on I can't see Chris still.
He was on a rant.
So tell Chris to leave and come back. I can't see you.
Chris, leave and come back. He can't see you still.
So anyway, happy Monday to you all. Hope you all enjoyed your Super Bowl Sunday. Was not exactly a close game, but honestly, given the state of the NFL and how everyone was feeling about the Chiefs the last year or two, I think it was a cleansing. I can see you now, Chris, so we're good to go. I think it was a cleansing. I think I can speak for a lot of people, and I tweeted this out when a lot of people were cool with watching the Chiefs get their ass beat. A change of pace, if you will. That being said, the downside is we had to watch the city of Philadelphia win, which is never good for the state of things. Just an overall filthy group of people, man. But hey, Eagles won. Under did not hit. Went over the total. Had some fun. Went to my brother's Super Bowl party. Damn, Lindy just popped off. Now I can't see Lindy. I'll leave and come back in a second. But anyway, let's get started. There's a lot of games on the board today. There's also a lot of injury question marks. I have a couple bets open. Not even sure how much I even like them, but we'll talk about it. Maybe we can find some more. I'm going to leave and come back real quick because I can't see Lindy. But Chris or Lindy, go ahead. Start off with Spurs Wizards. I'll be right back.
You fire it up, Chris.
Spurs Wizards. All right. So what is the line now? Is the line 11? I saw 11, right? Yeah, it's 11.
Yeah, 11 usually across the board for everything. 237 total.
Yeah. So I wanna fade the Wizards, but I'm not laying this many points with the Spurs. That's what it really comes down to. Fox has been with the team for 3 games. They have not covered a spread. Every single game has gone over. So I think the Wizards are going to play pretty fast. I think the Spurs are going to play equally fast. I would probably still lean towards the over at 237.5. Didn't bet it. As far as player props in this game, there was a couple that I considered, and one that I still might get to the window with. And the first one being, and the one that I like the most is Wemby, up and over his 25.5 points. He's not someone that I typically bet on a lot. I don't think I bet on his points prop at all throughout the season. But when you look at the matchup, boy, he scores in transition and he scores as a pick and roll man. These are two things that the Wizards do a terrible job of defending, evident by Victor Wembanyama's 50-point game that he had the last time that they played. He shot 18 for 29, 8 for 16 from the three-point line. So if I'm betting anything here, probably still would want to grab the points with the Wizards. I know that they've been playing a little bit better recently. I think I had them as 14th offensive rated and 12th defensive rated, which those numbers don't blow you out the water. But for the Wizards that are typically 30 and 30 or 29 and 29, they're actually pretty good. So I think catching that many points, the Wizards, the Spurs haven't shown me enough to want to lay this big of a number with them. But points. I think the points prop with Wemby is probably the best play in this game. 25.5 up and over for Wemby if I'm betting anything here.
Yeah, I mean, let's forget them. 1 sec. Yeah, I mean, the Wizards' interior defense should struggle here, and that's kind of how I feel about this one. I think the move here would have been to take the over at open at 235. I'd still lean that way at the current price, 237.5. I'm a little worried about, eventually the Spurs are going to start playing some defense again, like they were earlier in the year, but it's been a while since we've seen it. So I think you would go, if I was to place a bet in this game, I didn't. It will be Spurs team total over 237.5. We should see a very fast-paced game. Like Chris was talking about, I'm sure, in the part I missed. The Wizards have no interior defense, so between Wembanyama and Fox, they should be able to get inside and score points in this one. So I lean over, but this is not one of the games I have a bet on. Lindy, what do you think?
Yeah, I have a small play on Chris Paul over 6.5 assists. It doesn't look as good once I went more into the data as what I thought it did last night, but it just is what it is. I have a small play on this one. I think De'Aaron Fox is kind of more of my lean now going through some of the numbers. We've got potential assists through 3 games now for De'Aaron Fox. He's averaging right around 34.5 minutes, 13.7 potential assists, 9.3 assists per game, but a little bit of an outlier. That first game, they definitely played almost exclusively through him, tried to get him involved right from the get-go. I think it kind of makes everything look really, really skewed because you take a guy like Chris Paul. We've had enough of a sample size with the point guard, 36.4% assist rate for him now on the season. My big thing is that he's losing out on a lot of potential assists. He's also playing right around 26, 27 minutes a game here in the last few. And I'm not sure how this was ever going to work because I was pretty convinced that once they acquired De'Aaron Fox, they were going to maybe let Chris Paul go or do like a buyout option. I thought he might end up somewhere else, but they're starting alongside each other. And that really hurts the prospects for both of them in terms of assists. So right now he's been really, really hyper efficient with some of those numbers. Chris Paul is in terms of his potential assists, turning them into assists. And part of that is just a lot of that in the pick and roll with Wemby, more so than De'Aaron Fox. He's starting to figure that out as we go along. So I'm just going to be paying more attention to the data. Again, I wish I didn't have this play on my card right now, but I do. So it is what it is.
Prop Beaver is on the screen, which means Prop Beaver is about to. How did you hit any NBA bets yesterday, Prop Beaver?
I went 1-1 in the NBA yesterday. The Amen Thompson read was dead on arrival as soon as Sengun got hurt. They just stuck the paint up. That shit was ugly. And then the Damian Lillard one was free, so it was all right. Super Bowl was god awful. God bless America. But that's the NFL for you. We're moving on to the NBA, a sport that has been good for us lately, and we're talking about Richaun Holmes. Yes, Richaun Holmes. It's been ages since this guy's gotten some serious minutes, but since Jonas Valanciunas got traded, since Alexander Sarr is out, we are starting to see this guy get some serious minutes for the first time since he was a Sacramento King. And I actually like the value for him to go over his rebounds and assist line here at 10.5. You get that at, I believe, minus 115 on most books. Since Zubac went ballistic on Wemby, we have been seeing centers go off against San Antonio on the glass. I mean, the last 6 to 7 starting centers against San Antonio have went over their mark. They're averaging 13 rebounds per game. Meanwhile, Holmes has seen a major boost in minutes and chances on the glass with Sarr out. His last 3 games, he's averaging 30 minutes per game, 18.3 chances per game, and 3.3 potential assists per game since 2021. 15 plus chances and 3 plus potentials. He's 10-4 to the line. He's averaging 13 per game in a pace up spot here. I like the number. I think the Washington Wizards could keep it feisty, keep it close. So I'm taking it here.
And I quote, probably says the Washington Wizards can keep it feisty.
They can keep it feisty, folks. Feisty group they got there.
On that note, let's switch over to the next game. This is one where I'd be down to bet if I knew the status of Mike Conley and obviously Anthony Edwards. I think this number is too high if both those guys are playing. But obviously, both those guys being questionable might be cooked into this number at 9.5. So it's a tough call to make. If they're both ruled in right now and I could get in at 8.5, 9, obviously it's going to drop. I would bet it. But who knows? It's you're trying to catch there's moving parts here because if they're ruled out, does the number move towards Cleveland? If they're ruled in, does it drop? What are the assumptions right now baked into this number we're currently looking at 9.5? A lot of moving parts, but Minnesota has been playing well. They've been playing some solid basketball recently. They've also played a strong schedule as of late. So I know Cleveland, big bad wolf at home, but 9.5 is a big number to lay to a team that's playing well right now. We haven't seen this huge drop off without DiVincenzo and Randall. In fact, they look just fine without those guys. Not saying they're better off without them, nothing like that. I'm just saying those two guys being out doesn't exactly move the needle in these models. I mean, they're pretty much playing similar basketball without those two guys. So if I'm getting, you can put Minnesota up for me.
Yes, sir.
If I'm getting, what I'll probably do with this one is keep the Twitter noties on. If I get Anthony Edwards and Conley playing and I could just rush over to a sports book and grab a plus 9.5, I'll do it. But as of right now, it's Minnesota or pass waiting on the injuries. So if something happens while we're live, put it in the comments, please. It says ski for Lindy.
Okay, yeah. I'll update the 3-person thing. I mean, I will say Lindy does look an awful lot like Ski.
They're practically brothers. All right, so
he must be a lovely, beautiful human being as well.
Just a couple of handsome fellas. All right, Chris, would you like to go second? What are your thoughts on what I said, Chris?
I completely agree with everything, Kyle. Everything you said. This was at 6 yesterday. And I'm waking up this morning thinking 6 was. I thought yesterday I was like 6 is a big number. I get it. Like Anthony Edwards, Mike Conley. Like I completely get it. And then I wake up this morning and I see 8.5, 9, and I'm like, okay, so somebody knows that these guys are probably not playing. So they're probably betting it early. So that's the only sense I can make of it, Kyle. To your point, Minnesota has been god awful laying points at home. They're not a team you want to be laying points with. We talk about this religiously. 7-17 against the spread are the Minnesota Timberwolves at home, 29%. But you catch them on the road, where they are 15-11. Catch them as a road dog, where they're 6-2 against the number. This is the spot for the Timberwolves. We saw, I think reference Christmas Day game against Dallas, a healthy Dallas team on Christmas. They go in and clean up the Dallas Mavericks, and I think that they can keep this one within the number 2, Kyle. So I won't dive too much more into it, but what you said is what I said on my morning show as well. So I'll just agree with you on everything that you said. I'll be looking to take Minnesota if I can get them, plus the points before the numbers move too much.
Lindy, what are your thoughts?
So let's talk through this, because I think there's a lot of potential value, and I think there's a couple of scheduling issues going on for the next couple of days. For those who don't know, Thursday's our last day of basketball, and then Friday the All-Star break starts. No basketball Friday, Saturday, All-Star game Sunday, no basketball Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we start back up next week. There are a lot of teams that are playing 2 games, that's the majority, and then there's teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves, we're going to play 3 games in 4 days. And this is such a trappy, weird spot. So they play in Minnesota on Saturday. They played Portland. They win. Rob Dillingham, kind of weird minutes for him, went through a bunch of the box scores. And that's a lot of what I do night before. And we were talking a little bit before the show. I'm very on-off split based. And I'm also just trying to look ahead, trying to figure out if there's any kind of an edge. And I can basically explain for you exactly why this goes 6 to 9.5, because I think a lot of people are recognizing that this is a trappy rest spot here for Minnesota. They go to Cleveland for 1 game, and then they fly back home to play 2 against Milwaukee on Wednesday and Oklahoma City on the tail end of their back-to-back on Thursday. Now, if you're going to look at this the way that I look at it, it's what do you do with Mike Conley? Like, when do you utilize Mike Conley, and when do you want to have his minutes shored up? Is that a Cleveland spot like this? Do you want them to be shorthanded before you decide whether or not you're going to unleash Ant and Conley? Or are you simply having them travel with the team? Because they're obviously there, they're hanging out, but both of them traveled with the team. And it sounds to me as though Ant is more likely to play and Mike Conley is less likely to play, simply because they want to utilize Mike Conley in one of those spots and see what the rest lines up with Dame Lillard. We know Giannis is going to be out for Milwaukee. So the one game you want to make sure you lock down in this week, if you're Minnesota, is that Wednesday Milwaukee game, where I think you're going to utilize everybody. And then Thursday, you can potentially use it as a rest spot. I know I'm using a lot of theorization here, but the point is the line movement makes perfect sense to me. You have the one travel game in the course of a week and a half for Minnesota, and it's against the strongest offensive team. They bring DeAndre Hunter, who's going to be starting, and I think he's a great fit alongside them. A lot of models actually have Karis LeVert. Like, you look at Darko, he's technically a better on-off court guy to have on your team than one DeAndre Hunter, but they don't really have a need at the guard position. You have Ty Jerome behind, you have you have Donovan Mitchell, and you have, of course, Darius Garland, who I think has just been outrageously good this entire season. So all of this is said to basically bring this to the table. I want to pull the trigger on Naz Reid over 28.5 PRA. If you want to talk about the one guy, the one bright spot and everything with some of these injuries for Randall, for DiVincenzo, it's that you're getting the full effect of like what 38, 40 minutes can be for Naz Reid. The usage is out of control, but I do see Ant as being a little bit more likely to play and Mike Conley being a little less likely to play. And I think that kind of puts a little bit of uncertainty as far as what I can put that usage at for him. But it's also juice minus 120. When you start to see some of these numbers that are just carrying a little bit more vig, a little bit more weight, it's basically saying, hey, we'll give you the opportunity to put money down on it, but you're going to be paying a tax on it. And I just don't really feel like doing that with a truly close to 50-50 type tag. So I'm going to cover a lot of the schedule of what we've got coming up later. I think it really applies to Miami as well. Miami has a brutal stretch here this week, but wanted to touch on that because I do think that that's the best rationale I have for why that went from 6 to 9 instantly overnight.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I would say the game right before the Oklahoma City game would be the one that I would more apply that to. right? I mean, you got a huge game against Oklahoma City on deck. This one, there's a day off tomorrow. I don't know if this is that much of a factor there, but I do agree with what you're saying. That is a crazy schedule right here before the break. I also agree with what you said on Miami, and I actually thought the same thing. I was leaning Celtics in that one. We'll get to it. Someone in UCappers in the comments asked about Cleveland team total under. I guess that's where he's leaning. It's tough to try to take a guess at what the pace is going to be for this game. I will say, because I was looking at Minnesota's defensive numbers. If you look at the last 10 games, they're like 6th in defensive efficiency. But if you actually look at the game logs, they had 2 like lights out defensive performances where they held, I think, the Hawks to like 89, or like 2 that are kind of skewing the numbers.
Can't forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on how you weight Portland, though, because I think you have to throw some of Portland out the window the last few. They've been incredible for like a month, and it makes no sense.
I think Portland's about to get smacked up tonight. We'll get to that later.
They might.
Cool. We're in agreement then. I'm on Denver. Next up. All right. I have a bet in this game. I think I'm a bit of a sucker here. I placed this bet last night expecting to have some CLV in the morning. Was not the case. I'm sitting on Atlanta plus 5.5. I'm not sure. I mean, I understand Orlando should be favored. I would have this one at like 2.5 though. 5.5. The Hawks have covered 5 in a row. They're 7-1 against the spread in their last 8. So it's not weird that the market's undervaluing this Hawks team. That's been happening pretty consistently. Can you definitively say right now, with no Jalen Suggs, that Orlando is definitely the better team here? Because I don't know if you could definitely say that. Maybe slightly. And yes, the game's in Orlando, which is why I'd say, yeah, maybe they should be laying 2.5. 5.5 seems crazy to me. I played Atlanta. I think, let's see, what are we polling at on this one? Okay, there are a lot of people taking Orlando here. All right, that makes me feel a little bit better. I thought this, when I woke up and saw it was still 5.5, my thoughts were like, oh shit, I'm sitting on like the public dog of the day. But I guess a lot of people like Orlando. I think this number should be 2.5, so I'm on the Hawks. They've been covering like machines recently. Lindy, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the Hawks are a little bit undervalued to some extent. Not by like not some crazy type number. 5.5. I've got this closer to 3.5. So it's not drastic. It's probably right on the fringe of playable here for me. But I look at Trae Young as potentially your main guy here. I'm looking at 10 plus assists. Also looking at maybe laddering him up. Orlando playing at the second slowest pace in the entire NBA. We also have Karis LeVert instead of DeAndre Hunter. That is not helpful to Trae Young and his assist totals. DeAndre Hunter has been like shooting the best numbers of his career, not just from 3 in terms of true shooting, right around 63%. He gets shipped off. But for me, this comes down to a ridiculous amount of potential assists, and Karis LeVert only played 15 minutes the first game. Maybe we see that come up. He got in some weird foul trouble against Washington, had 4 fouls in the first 9 minutes in that stint in the first half. But if we're going to see him play around 20 minutes, that's a guy that traditionally is going to have more ball handling duties and things that he's going to maybe take away from Trae Young in the absence of Bogdanovich and so on and so forth. But potential assists have been, over the course of the last 5, right around 23.5 per game. 23.5 is such a ridiculous number. He is doing absolutely everything. And yeah, it's a very defensively forward center position here. You're looking for some pick and roll, but he gets Clint Capella back. And that has routinely been somebody who you see a little bit of an uptick in some of those pick and roll numbers for him. Get some of those easy dump offs. I don't think you're going to get him starting. You're going to get a Kungu starting, but just the presence of him there, along with Larry Nance knocking down some shots here recently, I see that kind of as a lower number, so 10 plus assists for Trae.
So you Trae Young 10 plus assists and a Kongwu over 23.5 PNR. Is that what I heard?
No, I didn't have that one. No.
Oh, Trae Young 10 plus assists. Got it. All right. I do have a Trae Young graphic in here, so I think Chris might be on a Trae Young prop as well. Is that true, Chris?
I am. I played Trae Young. I feel like Prop Beaver a little bit, man. I got a little CLV, plays a little bit.
Yes, sir.
I played Trae Young under 36.5 points plus assists last night. And this was predicated off, the Magic being back at home, as you kind of referenced a little bit. The number to me kind of feels dead, like spot on, which is why I'm not going overside in total. I do think the Orlando Magic are due to come up. Do that means that they win this game by 5+? I'm not sure. We saw Orlando, just play against San Antonio in a game that they it was a spot for them. There was 7 game in 11 nights and second leg of a back-to-back, and they didn't cover against San Antonio. So when I look at Trae Young, I look at the Magic at home. They are the team that allows the second fewest assists. They play at the second slowest pace. And when you just look at that using props madness, teams that are just top 10 in assists allowed and bottom 10 in pace, Trae has stayed under his 36.5 points in assists in 7 of his 8 games. I think he averages somewhere around 32, 33.5. So I thought that there was a lot of value. Also, and this number did come down. It's 34.5 now. So 2 points of CLV probably means that he goes for 40 and 20 tonight. But I'll take Trae Young here. Also, I want to mention this because Trae Young's last few games, he's absolutely been killing it. I think he was going on some kind of like revenge tour because he didn't make the All-Star game. But if you're Trae, I know you know that you are the replacement for Giannis, so you can stop it tonight. Like, we don't need you to go too crazy tonight. 30, 20 and 10, so Lenny can cash his bet, and we stay under this 36.5, and we're good money. So yeah, I played 36.5 last night. Got a little CLV. I'm gonna try to keep attacking this prop market, Cal. I might have my ear to the pulse to the prop market streets. Prop Beaver, is that a Prop Beaver approved prop?
Yeah, I mean, it's an approved prop. I took a Kongwu. I'm a fellow CLV warrior in this bowl game. I took a Kongwu's under rebounds last night at 9.5, now at 8.5. So I feel you. That's why I'm not on the screen here. But you got good CLV on it. I hope you cash.
Let's move on to the next one. Boston, Miami. Obviously, tough to place a bet on this game with the injury question marks. In case you haven't seen it, there's no Drew Holiday for the Celtics, but that's not what I'm talking about. We have both Jason Tatum and Brown listed as questionable in this one.
Neither went through shoot around.
Neither went through shoot around.
Neither went through shoot around. Go ahead, continue. I just wanted to make sure I had that.
Neither went through shoot around, but it wasn't. So this is a weird thing, but there are mandatory shoot arounds in the NBA and there are non-mandatory shoot arounds. This was a non-mandatory shoot around for the Boston Celtics, so they were not required to go attend to it. So it has no bearing on whether they're in or not. However, this line has flew towards the Miami side of things from last night until today. So the chances of one of the two at least sitting it feels pretty high.
There's no way they would let us have Celtics -6 if they're both going to play.
Also,
no way possible. That was my thought process to count. No way possible.
The way my thoughts on this game, so it's sitting at 5.5 now. My thoughts on this game is give me one of them, preferably Tatum, and I'll take the Celtics. So you can put up Boston for me, but I do not want to be on this if they're both sitting. And most likely we're not going to find out about this until the very end. So Celtics is the side I want to be on. But by the way, we also have Tyler Hero listed this question.
Yeah.
So like, what do we even? I'm not even going to sit here and try to decipher all the different possibilities of matchups we could possibly see.
Don't forget Cal. Cal, don't forget about Wiggins. Is supposed to make his debut. Cal Anderson, Davion Mitchell. Complete skip to me.
Wait, Davion Mitchell. I don't think Davion Mitchell's playing though, is he?
He's not on the injury report. He's not on the injury report.
He's not in the projected rotation, but who knows? Celtics,
I have him for 3 minutes tonight, so yeah.
3. Getting some burn?
No, I'm just saying, like, he could come in for like a stint and like call it a day. I think he probably walks into like maybe 10, 12 minutes in the event that you get Tyler Hero out, who, you're going to project for around 35, 36 minutes every single time out right now. So it's a very interesting game. And I generally am the opposite side of you. I love Q tags in the NBA because it allows for you to do a couple of things. One, kind of guess and stab at some numbers. So this is my play for it, and we'll talk through why. And I know some people think I'm long-winded. I don't really care. Jaylen Brown, over 4.5 assists, sitting at -125 over on DraftKings right now. I played this -120. I'm just fine with -125 here. So a couple of things. One, we already know Drew Holiday's out, so you can kind of already get like a base set for like what that assist rate will be. But if Jaylen Brown sits, it's just a voided ticket. If you correctly guess that it's going to be Tatum that ends up being the one between the two of them sitting, who I think is the more impactful of the two players and the one who's going to move the line more, I think that's kind of my deductive reasoning about why I want to land on Jaylen Brown. The other thing is that when you're projecting out assists, 1 assist, 2 assists in one direction is going to be more valuable than taking a guy who goes like Jason Tatum from a 35% usage guy up to around 40% usage when you take Jaylen Brown off the floor. That's a big difference, but his true shooting goes down. His efficiency goes down. He also has more minutes to share the floor with Peyton Pritchard, which will not usually result in positive things in terms of usage going forward. And a lot of that 300-minute sample size has Kristaps Porzingis off the floor. So you get some really noisy numbers, but I'm pretty convinced that between the two of them, this number crashing has more of a result of Tatum. And hey, it could be both of them sitting. That is totally live to happen. We'll say, if you're trying to take advantage of the news on the other side with Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo traditionally without Jimmy Butler on the floor going back the last couple of years, huge spike in his assist rate. He's even money at 4.5, and you would take Tyler Hero off. He's playing alongside a Wiggins, who's going to be a lower assist rate guy than a Nikola Jovic, who would be the other potential starter there next to him. I don't think they'll do the Pell Larson thing. I bet Wiggins gets the start rate from the get-go here. So went through some projected rotations, played around with a lot of numbers in this one. Landed on Jaylen Brown because I think that one, if it just voids, I'm okay with it there. But if you're trying to find something on the Heat side of things, I think Bam Adebayo going to be more of a creator going forward if you take Tyler Hero off the floor.
So we got Brown over 4.5 assists, especially if Tatum doesn't play. And then you got Bam over assists as well.
Yep.
Lindy is so much better than me, Kyle. I just want to say that because I see all the questionable tags and I'm like, yeah, let's go to the next game.
No, we were actually just talking about that before. Yeah.
Yeah. There's
shout out to Lindy.
It depends. Sometimes you get snagged by it too, but you can't let one spot where you kind of misread the tea leaves deter you. And for me, I think I've just had a better ROI being able to kind of use logic and looking ahead at a schedule. It's not brain science, but then, obviously it goes towards the rates and the things and the data that I already like. And so, yeah, it's fun to do in the NBA. It is very frustrating to do in the NFL because things can just move in such drastic ways. Whereas in the NBA, much more projectable within a tighter range of outcomes.
Yeah, and it's just another variable you have to insert. Like, hey, you can make this play right now, with that should hit at this probability if he plays. If he doesn't play, what am I looking at? Like, maybe it's still, you just got to throw another added element here to your equation, is the chances of whether or not they're going to be ruled out. Chris, what do you think?
Everything you think. I want to skip past it. Like Tyler Hero, I have no idea what's going to happen. I did bet Porzingis opened over his first quarter points last night at plus 100 at 5:00.
Did we just lose him?
He's just so excited for Luka.
Yeah.
I see it. Everything.
Yeah,
the banner,
think it looks like he just got out.
For whatever reason, he plays a bunch of minutes and scores a bunch of points in the first quarter. So Porzingis up and over for 5.5 first quarter points.
All right. And he's still here. I don't think he even knew that he cut out for Chris. You said
I didn't.
Yeah, you said I'm going to take Porzingis up and over his first quarter points, and then you froze for about 15 seconds and then just came back. But anyway, next game, please.
I planned it that way. I'm just kidding.
We heard your pick. We didn't necessarily hear your thoughts on it, but it's cool. Porzingis first quarter points. Next up, Charlotte, Brooklyn. Man, how many points is Charlotte being on a back-to-back worth to you? Because I think it should be like Charlotte minus 1.5 if it wasn't for the back-to-back. I get it, no days rest, but I still think this is too high. I don't know what we're doing. Lane 3.5 with the Nets. I didn't bet this one. Obviously, the Hornets just played. They just covered for me yesterday. 2-0 NBA day yesterday. Obviously, everyone's attention, including mine, was on the Super Bowl, so I actually forgot that I had a 2-0 NBA day. But Hornets plus 10.5 was one of those wins. But yeah, it's a back-to-back. I personally think it should be Hornets laying 1 or 2 here. I think the current state of the Nets are not a good basketball team. But, I mean, there's also, in addition to being 0 days rest, you're also talking about Nick Smith questionable, Josh Green questionable. There's several pieces questionable on the Charlotte side. Yeah, Diabate too. If we know LaMelo Ball's playing, and in my opinion, Charlotte should be favored if he's out there because their offensive efficiency is actually pretty solid when he's on the floor. So I would lean Charlotte plus 3.5, or if, depending on what happens with those other questionable pieces for Charlotte, maybe a Hornets team total over. You can get it super low right now. What do you can get at 104.5? Hornets team total over 104.5 might be a decent look too. I know the Nets play a slow pace, and they've actually been playing decent defense. I understand why it's that low, but the Hornets, with LaMelo Ball on the floor, they are capable of scoring, and they also run at a faster pace. So I think that's a good bet. If LaMelo's playing, if the other pieces are ruled out, I get why the line be -3.5. I could go Hornets team total over or full game total over, though. Wendy?
All right, let's break it down. Ball didn't play yesterday, so it's completely different for Charlotte because now you get your best player. He's the best player playing in the game by a mile. So I completely see it from your perspective there. We're like Charlotte, yeah, it's a back-to-back. Yeah, they're missing a lot of pieces, but let's talk about the one big piece that they're adding today that there's no lines out for it yet. But if you take anything from what I say right now, Yusuf Nurkic is going to absolutely destroy if he is the only center that is out there other than Taj Gibson. You have Diabate sitting there with the Q tag right now. Heed my words. Yusuf Nurkic can play basketball. Yusuf Nurkic did not get along with anybody there in Phoenix. It is what it is. Budenholzer and him did not see eye to eye. He defensively is not going to be all that great, whatever. He is going to go out and go completely batshit nuts alongside a LaMelo Ball for however many days we get him before Mark Williams returns, before ever Diabate returns, before anything else. If you go through some of the rates that he's had with like electric point guards, he did not have a true point guard when he played in Phoenix. You had Devin Booker on Ball. You had Kevin Durant on Ball. You had Bradley Beal on Ball. None of these guys are creators. LaMelo Ball is a creator, and I am telling you, I'm going to be on every ladder as soon as that drops because there's just no way that I'm going to see any possibility that Nick Claxton is going to slow down Yusuf Nurkic offensively. Now, you need Diabate out. You need Nurkic to get the start. You need all of these things to take place here, but I'm legitimately seeing like 25-15 if I put him in for 30 minutes. And he wasn't out with injury. He hasn't played in a game since January 7th. And maybe they don't want to play him a million minutes, but they're pretty deep at the center position outside of today. They have Diabate. They can play Salon, who played some backup five yesterday. They've got Mark Williams, who's going to be returning after that trade got kind of put to kaput, and is just going to be a team that, you know, probably doesn't have a ton of minutes, like as many minutes as what you could run into for today. But for one day only before the books would adjust to how many minutes he could potentially play, if he's in that starting lineup, jam, Nurk, ladder, overs. They're not available yet. They won't be until closer to tip-off, but I want that out there. And then the other one I took advantage of a little bit of assist potential here. Cam Johnson, talked about this with you a little bit before the show. I parlayed the two of them a little bit better than plus 155 on DraftKings. As long as it's sitting in that ballpark, you're trying to take advantage of the potential that D'Angelo Russell could sit or continues to be limited around that 24, 26-minute mark where he's never been extended. He hasn't played 30 minutes yet in a Brooklyn Nets uniform. He's got around a 40% assist rate with Ben Simmons off the floor. For those who don't know, Ben Simmons is now gone to the Shadow Realm, sent to the Clippers, or I guess signed with the Clippers. He got let go here. But I look at both of those guys as your primary distributors. Pretty decent minutes allotment there for Cam Johnson here going forward. Can't believe he didn't get traded at the deadline. So lots to talk about from a prop perspective in this one. But I'm telling you, if Nurk starts and you have Diabate out, jam his overs. I don't care where they're at.
Chris?
Skip. I don't want anything to do with this game.
UCapper's in the comments. He's saying on back-to-backs this year, Hornets opponents are 7-1 to their team total under. So if I'm leaning towards Hornets team total under, there's a trend that applies to the Nets team total. I'm sorry, if I'm leaning towards Hornets team total over and there's a trend that's applicable for a Nets team total under, maybe I'll just take the plus 3.5, honestly. Let's move on. New Orleans, Oklahoma City. Sounds crazy with Zion active to lay 17 points to them, but like, makes complete sense. I mean, I'd probably make this game 14.5, 15, so I completely get it. New Orleans is playing no defense. They're playing nothing that even resembles defense. I don't have much to say about this one. Oklahoma City should score a lot of points in this game. They should basically be able to pick their number. Obviously, hey, Kyle, why don't you bet an Oklahoma City team total over? Well, look at the price. It's crazy. It's a lot of points. What is it, 126 or something to get up and over their team total here? I think it would be 126.5, just doing quick math with a 235 total. So that's a lot of points. That'd probably be my pick is Oklahoma City team total over. You could just put over up for me, Prop Beaver. but I'm not betting this game.
I bet Oklahoma City minus 14.5. It's now 17. I probably wouldn't at this point in time. So everybody who thought I was long-winded before, here you go. I'm done talking.
Yeah. Chris?
Next.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a tough one. There's so many games on the board. It's just tough to. Now that I'll talk about it later. I have
this
a new
defense
strategy.
Is going to be so dumb. Oklahoma City with Chet getting up to 30 minutes soon. It's just going to be the dumbest defense, man. They're so dumb good. They're so dumb good.
If teams that have an elite defense don't tend to run a super fast pace. So if their defense gets back up to where it's supposed to be, I wonder if that slows the team down as a whole. We'll see. Golden State, Milwaukee. We got huge injury question marks at this one. Obviously, if Steph doesn't play, Milwaukee +7 looks great. But the line is moving towards Golden State, which is indicative of Steph Curry probably playing.
Also, Lillard downgraded to questionable, which is probably why the Bucks are catching 7 points at home.
Yeah, that happened probably about 30 minutes before we went live. Lillard's downgraded to questionable. I don't know. I honestly don't even know what to say. You got Steph Curry questionable. You got Damian Lillard questionable. Giannis isn't playing. I don't know. I don't want to lay 7 with Golden State there, but that being said, I kind of get why it's there. I have nothing to say. This is tough. You guys have anything for this one?
Yeah, I definitely do. Why don't you go first, Chris?
I'll just kind of piggyback off what Cal said. I think the line is what it is, Cal, because as you mentioned, this was at 5.5 yesterday, and I thought Golden State was actually the best play on the board. But there's a couple things that helped me up. First off, the injury report. Second off, I want to see a little bit bigger sample size with Jimmy Butler being there before I'm laying this many points with Golden State on the road. Now, they have been good on the road as a favorite. Typically, their defense comes to show. So I guess if I'm playing anything, it's maybe a Milwaukee team total under. I think that's probably the play here. I know Golden State hasn't been great defensively recently, but I do think that they will eventually get there. I think Milwaukee will also play at a slow pace, and it's primarily because of the rest situation here. This is second leg of back-to-back, 3rd and 4, 4 and 6, 6 and 9 with no rest. And that's been a phase spot for quite a while. They were 0-6 against the spread in their last 6 games before beating the what do we say about Philly nowadays? But they beat Philly. We won't get into Philly. They beat Philly yesterday. But outside of that, they have failed to cover 6 straight. So it'd either be Golden State. I think Steph's going to play. He did go through shoot around. It'd be Golden State minus the points, even on the road in this spot. Or it'd be a Milwaukee team total under. I think you can get that at 112, 111.5. I think those are the 2 plays here.
I actually don't hate that Milwaukee team total under, especially if Dame doesn't play. But Lindy said he's got something, so I'm all ears.
My favorite play of the day, Bobby Portis over 2.5 assists was minus 120 on ESPN. Now it's plus 115 at 3.5. And I'm just fine with that too. If you pay attention to how Doc Rivers does things, traditionally, if you see big minutes for Damian Lillard on the front end, you got to expect potential rest on the back end. Now, it's not just Damian Lillard. We have Chris Middleton gone. We have Giannis Antetokounmpo out. And somehow, some way, we already saw some pretty inflated numbers on Bobby Portis, but I disagreed with this assist number before we ended up having that. Did you know Bobby Portis leads this basketball team in assist rate with no Giannis, Middleton, and Lillard off the floor? We're talking.
Hold on. So Bobby Portis leads the Bucks in assists when
Giannis, Middleton, and Lillard are off the floor. 28.4% assist rate. A 28.4% assist rate at 32 minutes is a baseline of 6.5. How is this not an unbelievable play at 3.5? Lillard played 44 minutes yesterday, and it's like nobody even paid attention that Damian Lillard played 44 freaking minutes yesterday, and that he's an obvious rest candidate on a back-to-back. Everybody else is hurt. Giannis is getting the rest of the week off. You could punt these now. You have your team. You have your core intact. You need Giannis healthy, Lillard healthy, Kuzma healthy, Portis healthy, Brook Lopez healthy. Those are the 5 guys in the Eastern Conference. You're hoping news breaks your way. Somebody maybe gets hurt in another spot in the East. But Bobby Portis on this back-to-back, he only played 30 minutes yesterday. He didn't start yesterday. They bubble wrapped him to some extent, and Kuzma played well. Lillard played well. They went nuts in that fourth quarter and didn't have to extend Bobby Portis. he was such an obvious guy. And the points I thought were a little bit inflated up to around 16.5. I thought the rebounds were a little bit inflated. I mean, obviously he's had a ridiculous rebound rate with those guys off the floor, but the assists were way too low. I legitimately had this double what it's sitting at here, and you're getting plus money on it. It is by far my favorite play today. It's not remotely close.
Wow. Okay.
Lindy, you never considered the rebounds plus assists? I'm just looking into it now more that you said that. And that's been a nice cash cow too. It looks like there's a 3-point expected value here on his rebounds plus assists as well.
So you're not getting the kind of upside you'd want. And plus, I'm just isolating the one category purely because he has to play a different role on the team with those three off. And he doesn't really, you don't see the same benefit when you add the rebounds to it. You're talking about adding another statistical category that's pretty efficient, as opposed to just isolating the one that's extremely inefficient. And I think long-term, if you're trying to trim down on the variance and just say, hey, I'm playing the minutes game, I think I'm better at projecting the minutes, you want to combine all the stat portfolios. So when you see like PRA put together, that's something I'm thinking about a lot, but I want to isolate the one purely because it's such a role change, whereas his rebound, there's not a role change that's really going to be incurred there. He's going to continue to have the same rebound rate, but Damian Lillard on the floor is only going to help his rebound rate. That's not what Damian Lillard's out there to do. And so I want to kind of isolate the one statistical category that I think he benefits the most if Damian Lillard were to sit on the back-to-back, and that is definitely assists.
One thing I just want to mention here, I was waiting for the line to open up, and it did. Quinton Post, over 1.5 3-pointers made. I was looking at a bit earlier. We know the Bucks like to play that drop coverage against big men who shoot the 3-ball. Quinton Post, I know his minutes are small. This dude gets unbelievable volume for the minutes he is out there for a big, and all he does is shoot threes. I mean, we've now seen 4+ 3-point attempts in his last 7 of 9 games with 4+ 3-point attempts. He's over his last 6 or 7 games now facing Brook Lopez, who just sits under the basket and lets you shoot the 3-ball. So Quinton Post at -115 to get 2+ 3-balls, which he's over his last 6 to 9 games at -115. I think that's pretty good value. I'm probably gonna be playing that later. Just wanted to get that out there.
Steve Kerr is the Antichrist.
He is the Antichrist, but as long as he's in the starting lineup, he'll be in my bet slip today.
See, that's what I say sometimes. But then you see Quinton Post play 11 minutes like he did against the Lakers. And you know what? He did knock down 2 threes in that game, but he played 11 minutes before they went to pure Kevon Looney.
But he shot 5 threes in 11 minutes. I'm about the volume, Lindy. I'm about the volume.
Let's do it. Okay. All right.
Sacramento, Dallas. One more game. The next one is my favorite play of the game, not of the day, not this one. Sacramento's on the road at Dallas. We got a decent-sized injury report on the Mavericks side. Anthony Davis is not going to be playing. Derek Lively is still out. Caleb Martin not playing. Dwight Powell not playing. Max Christie listed as questionable. Dante Exum listed as questionable. PJ Washington listed as questionable. Kind of tough to get a feel of who's going to be out there for Dallas and what can we even expect because the team is so dramatically different than the team we were looking at just 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I don't really know how to evaluate the Dallas Mavericks right now. On the Sacramento side, also looking at a new team that doesn't look like they've shored up their defensive problems. I don't know. I guess I'd lean over, but Dallas hasn't been running the fastest pace in the world. So it would be over a pass, not a ton of interest without both these teams. I feel like we're still, or I should speak in the first person, both these teams, I feel like I'm still catching my bearings and trying to get a feel of what these teams are right now. So over a pass.
You or me, Chris?
Next. So is you.
Oh, stop. Daniel Gafford over 25.5 points plus rebounds, even money. There's obviously upside that's baked into the fact that he's the only big potentially available in this game. PJ Washington has had some ridiculous rebounding numbers pre-Anthony Davis showing up. Then he gets dinged up, doesn't play the second half there. But he had just been crashing the boards, playing a completely different role for this team. There's nobody behind him, whether that's OMP, Olivier Maxence Prosper, whether that's Kessler Edwards. Kyler Kelly's a true big. He'd only be backing up Gafford to some extent here. Najee Marshall can slide in and play some backup 5 if they need to, especially against a Trey Lyles. He can't really do that against Jonas Valanciunas, and I could see Kelly actually getting utilized on the floor in this one. But Daniel Gafford is going to play big minutes against two true centers that are not good defensively. Domantas Sabonis has had better numbers at the rim this season, but Jonas Valanciunas is one of the worst defensive centers that we've seen in our lifetimes. I mean, this is awesome for any minutes that you could get matched up there. Don't ever freak out. You get these weird 4-minute stints to start and end each quarter. That's how Jason Kidd likes to utilize Daniel Gafford in these spots. But I've got him in for 16.5 and 10, so 25.5 at even money. We're talking only one difference there, but you take PJ Washington off the floor, and I have him for 11.8 rebounds and 16.9 points. So it would be awesome to get PJ Washington out of there.
All right.
I'm in the same boat as Lindy in the fact that PJ Washington, let's not play basketball today. I mean, why? Why, sir? I mean, you were already banged up heading into that game against Houston. You play almost a half of basketball. Then you injure your ankle, and now you're going into a stretch where you'd have to play 3 games in 4 days heading into the All-Star break. I mean, my friend, let's just take it easy there. You already got AD and Lively out long-term. Do we need another Dallas Mavericks big out for the long term? I say no, and I think the Dallas Mavericks medical staff also says no here. So I'm pretty confident that PJ Washington doesn't go in this one. Even if he does go for some godforsaken reason, we got Christie and Exum both questionable here. I think at least one of them doesn't go. And with the amount of trade pieces that went out the door for Dallas, I think we're going to get Najee Marshall over 13.5 points. Najee to the minutes that we need to hit this mark here. So why do we like this play? Well, without PJ Washington, Najee's over his last 4 or 5 games, averaging 18 points per game, 13 field goal attempts, 28 minutes per game. And really what he's getting is the volume we need, because with 10 plus field goal attempts, he's over 12 or 16 games this season. He's averaging 17 points per game and 25 plus minutes, with 25 plus minutes over 14 to 20. And really what I like is the matchup, because he faces the Kings. The Kings are the worst defense in the NBA against the spot ups, and that's where the bulk of Najee's points come from. 30+% of Najee's points come from the spot up against bottom 10 defenses against the spot up this year. Najee 6-1 to his over. He's averaging 17 points per game. And the fact that if you look at the Kings against small forwards, they've allowed the last 12 of 15 to go over their total against them. And I do like the value on this one quite a bit against a fast-paced Kings team. They don't know how to play defense. And I feel like we're going to catch a really nice discount here when PJ Washington is announced out. So going with the over on Marshall here. Next
to my favorite play of the day, but more by default because I don't like any of the others. Not necessarily because I love the play, just more like I just hate all the games. Denver got it at -9. Not sitting on a ton of CLV or anything. That's okay by me. This is going to be a dog walking, ladies and gentlemen. Prepare yourself for the dog walk of the day here. Portland on the road in Denver. And I know some of you have been enjoying your ride on the Portland Trailblazers train. I think you should deboard immediately, specifically this game right here. So let's talk about the Portland Trailblazers hot streak, shall we? It's been enjoyable. It's been talked about. It was adorable. We had some good laughs. We have to admit, most of those games were at home. They had a long home stand in there. In fact, this is the last 12 games where we've been talking about this with Portland. They're 10-2 in their last 12 games, 11-1 against the spread. Excellent, right? Not taking credit away from them. They're playing well. Of those 12 games, just 4 were on the road. So just 4 road games inserted in there. Most were at home. And here's where it gets interesting. When's the last time Portland had a tough road game? Hear me out. I'm going to read the Trailblazers' last handful of road games. You got Minnesota without DiVincenzo, Randall, and who else sat? Conley.
Conley.
Yeah, everyone sat for Minnesota. They got their ass beat in that game, by the way. Portland did. Before that, you got the Hornets with no LaMelo, no Bridges, no Miller. Everyone sat for the Hornets in that one. So that's the last 2 road games. Before that, you got the Magic with no Suggs, no Goga. That was before he came back. That team was terrible. They were the worst team in the NBA. Before that, you got the Heat, who've been playing like shit with no Tyler Hero. He didn't play in that game. So that's their last 4 road games. It gets deeper than that. Before that, you got the Mavericks, no Luka, no Kyrie back then. That's who didn't play in that game. Before that, you got the Pelicans, no Zion, no Murphy, no Ingram when he was back there. The point I'm making is if you actually sit there and look at the Portland Trailblazers' last 6 or 7 road games, they played trash. And when they played a decent team, their star players didn't play because no one gives a shit about getting up for the game against Portland. enter the Denver Nuggets, who hopefully I'm not going to get screwed here with some late injuries. I know Michael Porter Jr. is listed as questionable, but it looks like Jamal Murray's listed as probable. And who else is probable? Aaron Gordon also listed as probable. So hopefully I don't get shafted by some late injury news here. But we're talking about the Nuggets at home. And if the Nuggets come out and throw their best fastball out there like I expect them to, this is a Nuggets team that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 at home. Seemed like the Nuggets juju, the positive energy at home, where the Nuggets always seem to beat the shit out of their opponent at home. Seemed like that's coming back around. Denver's also played some pretty solid defense in the last handful of games, granted against a questionable schedule, but it's good to see the Nuggets defensively starting to shore things up. Dog walk here. Nuggets, -9. Lindy, you agree?
Oh, me. Oh, Nikola Jokic, triple-double. This is weird because, I find it funny. This is one of the weirder markets to me, period. Whenever you watch the odds fluctuation, and one thing I always like to do just to kind of like double check my projections and kind of go through my process of stuff is I like to look at the last 10 of what a prop was listed at and see what changed or what if somebody got burned. Specifically, it happens more in the triple-double market than it does in the points or rebounds because those are going to be more hyper efficient. But listen to these last triple-double odds for Jokic. He was -110 against Philly on January 31st. He didn't convert it. Yet it dropped to -135 against Charlotte. Well, he converts that one. What is it against New Orleans next game? -210 at close. He ends up cashing that one. What's it at close of the next one? -195. What's it at close of the next one after he doesn't convert that one? -130 going up against Orlando. Why did it drop 65 cents in a slower pace matchup against Orlando? Part of that is because of the spread, the expected minutes. But the main thing for me is you're just seeing Jokic not have to get completely unleashed in some of these recent games. He's only played 29 and 31 the last two against Phoenix and Orlando. He ends up falling just an assist shy against Phoenix. And now he gets to go up against a true center in DeAndre Ayton, which again, we're not so much worried about his rebounds even as much as, assists. Assists are always kind of the main go-to where you need to kind of figure out where that barometer is going to be set. And -105 for the entire portfolio triple-double here. If you put him in for 33 minutes, he is smashing that number at a clip that is much better than that. I would have this priced at -140. If we didn't have this Portis outlier number, this would be my favorite play of the day, but I love Jokic just to destroy Portland. So I'm with you. I think this is an absolute dog walking incoming, but almost all by way of Jokic.
Dog walking. 2 votes for dog walking. Chris. Oh, Chris is going to tell us that Chauncey Billups gave a riveting speech in the midnight stream last night. And Chris talks about Chris is moved by Chauncey Billups' speech. He's referenced the Chauncey Billups speech more than a handful of times on this show.
Just like twice, probably, Kyle. Stop it. Relax, guys. I kind of do. Well, I'm not playing the game. I'm not playing the game because you make very solid points, Kyle. The schedule for the Blazers has been absolutely trash in the sense of all the games have been at home. But if you go back to the games before that, they had won even before that road trip. They had covered 4 straight games in a row. Now, I'm not saying they were against the greatest.
Yeah, against who? That's what I'm saying. Against nobody. Against teams that were resting everybody because no one gives a shit about this team.
They were covering. They've covered it in Denver as well for whatever reason. They've covered the last 2 games in Denver. They actually beat Denver outright the last time that they played earlier this season, 126-124. And granted, that game was at home. So I think it's too big of a number. We've seen Denver kind of let their foot up off the gas every now and then, Kyle. And I think this is the spot where they could win by 7, 8 and be totally fine. I think the best spot on the card is because Denver comes out and they play with their food at times, is to take Denver third quarter. I think there's something like 25-4 against the number. Like they've been murdering teams in the third quarter for whatever reason. So that's the play that I would make pregame is just take them before the third quarter even starts because they've been so profitable in that spot. They covered both games against the Pelicans, which they haven't had to try. Well, they did try, but they beat Phoenix, a shorthanded Phoenix team. But yeah, I think that would be the best spot. I kind of lean the opposite way. I kind of lean plus the points, but I didn't bet it. So
dog walk. Denver's been covering these numbers, man. Their last 4 games, -6.5, -7.5, -9, -9.5. Doesn't matter. They're beating the shit out of teams right now. Nuggets
it would be so Denver, Cal, to not cover this one. Guess who they play on Wednesday?
Who do they play on Wednesday? Portland.
Did he freeze as soon as he said that? That's incredible.
I thought he was like a suspenseful thing. They play Portland again on one.
They play Portland again, and they'll smack Portland on Wednesday.
All right, next.
The production value. That was great.
Jazz versus Lakers. Luka Doncic making his debut. I don't even. What are we gonna expect here? I think we could all join hands and agree that the Lakers should be able to score points pretty frequently against the Utah Jazz. What does this offense look like with both LeBron James and Luka Doncic? I'm sure it's very good. Everyone has that same conversation every single NBA trade deadline, right? Every single time a superstar changes locations and joins up with another superstar, everyone's like, oh, they're so ball dominant. How are they going to make it work? Well, they're figuring it out. That's how. Because they're both very talented. So, yeah, the Lakers are going to score on Utah. I think everyone, and this is, if you've been consuming NBA content, I'm sure you've heard this said a dozen times in the last week, 2 weeks since this trade happened. Lakers, not the strongest defensive rotation right now. So, do you want to lay 12.5? You got Luka Doncic on the floor. You got LeBron James at 40 years old on the floor. Who's your defensive anchor here? Finney Smith coming off the bench. What is he going to give you? 29, 30 minutes. I don't think the Lakers on paper have the defensive prowess to justify laying this number. So I guess I would just say over. But I mean, then you're also you're dependent on the pace. Don't have a bet on the game. I would go say probably over. Lindy?
So be a little bit apprehensive about Luka Doncic minutes. He hasn't played for a while, actual injury. And then the other thing, Dave McMenamin was on ESPN today. I was just kind of listening to it in the background. And he said that they're going to have a plan in place for Luka's minutes. That was his exact quote. I have no idea what that means. Doesn't sound like 35, 36 to me. So at least keep that in mind. You do have LeBron, who's active and good to go. So he's probable for this. As you brought up before, I mean, not only that, the Lakers traded their two best defensive pieces to Dallas. So at the same time that, we give them as much flack, or I give them a lot of flack because this is still a ridiculous trade. Anthony Davis and Max Christie off the floor. This is a terrible defensive unit. And now Dalton Connect back on this team, going to be giving them the floor spacing that he gave them for the first half of the season before getting traded and now coming back here to LA once that got voided. I think they're just going to be a team that tries to score $130 a night. I mean, that's really what I think you have to do with this Lakers team is you have to go out with Doncic, with Reeves, with James. You play them as many minutes as you possibly can together, and you just try to put up $130 a night and not worry so much about it defensively. Because LeBron, for the last couple of years, defensively, he'll pick it up come playoff time. But I mean, routinely been one of the weaker defenders there at the 4 in the Western Conference. I work through the rest of this rotation. You're going to have minutes allotted for Markieff Morris, Shake Milton, and we're talking a terrible defensive team outside of Dorian Finney-Smith off the bench where, he can kind of come in for Rui Hachimura. I'd almost be inclined to start Dorian Finney-Smith over Rui Hachimura, so that's something you can pay attention to. I don't think it happens right out of the gate. I think they keep going with Rui, but eventually you might see that tide turn in a way where you can short one, play the other, especially if they struggle so much on the defensive side. I looked at Isaiah Collier. I looked at his 10-plus assists. Guy's just been absolutely outrageous in the assist department. I don't really believe it. I think it's a little bit of an outlier. Plus, you get into some of these double-digit spreads, it's going to get ridiculous. So there's a lot of potential plays for me here. This goes off at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. I probably will end up finding something in it. I just don't know what it is right now. So I'll lean with you over 235.5. I totally see this being a Lakers team where the whole goal is just score way more points than the other team.
Yep. I agree. Some Mike D'Antoni throwback basketball.
Oh, baby, that'd be fun.
Someone said it.
JJ Redick, pioneer.
Yeah, maybe he is. Maybe he's bringing that sort of style back. I like this comment right here. He said, how are the Lakers going to win a playoff series with no pitching? Bringing a baseball reference in. I like it. Chris, what are your thoughts on your Los Angeles Lakers?
First, that I have no idea how this is going to look. Like, I think I want to kind of pick holes in what y'all are saying as far as like a energy and intensity perspective. Like, if you've been watching the Lakers play, I mean, they just beat the Pacers, right? Nobody gave them a chance. They beat the Pacers without Bron, without Luka the other day, beat them by 7. beat the Warriors by 8 the other day, ended up covering that number, smoked the Clippers. Like, this is a team that's 9-1 straight up and against the number in their last 10 games. Now, I'm not saying that I'm laying this many points. I actually lean Jazz plus the 12, but if you look at them defensively the last 5 games, yeah, you're right. They don't have a lot of size, but they're giving up 105 points over the last 10. I'm pretty sure that's like number 2 or number 3 defensive rating over the last 10 games. In last 5 games, they've been the 3rd best defense and the 2nd best efficiency differential team. They're a plus 19. So if we continue to see them play with that effort, maybe they continue to score. I'm not laying this many points with them. Your point, Kyle, and I was surprised you didn't bring this up. This is a game for the Utah Jazz where they will have the big 3, right? We're talking about Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, and John Collins. They should absolutely dominate. I mean, the big 3 if they're gonna cover.
Hold on, they're the big 3 of rebounding.
Oh my God, we're going Wade, Bosch, and fucking LeBron to the big 3 of Utah.
Lindy, you gave a 30-minute speech earlier about Yusuf Nurkic. You're gonna fucking give them a hard time? Get the fuck out of here.
You wait until Yusuf Nurkic smashes Prop Fever. Fuck off.
I don't know if there's a better big 3 of rebounding than.
I agree. I agree. That's something that we agree on. I do agree.
Lindy's defending Nurkic to the death.
If the Jazz are going to win the rebound battle, like you always say, Cal, you can't lay this many points with them. So I slightly lean Jazz plus the points, and for the reasons that we don't know what this Lakers team is going to look like, but I do think it could go up and over the total. So it'd be slightly lean towards the over. Upset that I get this opened at 231.5 yesterday. I didn't get the best of the number clearly. And I would take the points. This has come down from 14 as well. So I agree with the money coming down from 14 for the Lakers, and it will be Utah plus the points for me.
All right, clear the board.
All right. Not even like the Lakers. That's hilarious. With the
no, Chris is. There's two versions of being a fan of the team. There's one who bets on their team every single time and always look at them optimistically. Chris is in Group B, where he just expects the worst. He has no hope for his team.
Never bet on him.
Yeah, but Lindy, where can they find your stuff if they found you compelling?
Well, if you find me compelling, yeah. At Odd Shopper, you guys can follow me. Lindy's Leans, Lakes, and Locks night before. Also follow me at Eric Lindquist. I've been throwing out a lot of my threads, just trying to give you guys extra research. For me, we do a lot of market-based tools over at Odd Shopper. I think there's some of the best that exist in the industry. Just been awesome, but try to integrate the projections from Stochastic, from my fantasy side of things, and really integrate that into the mix as well. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button, because Kyle Kirms, he's pretty good at this. And Chris, always good to see you, my dude.
Thank you, sir. And Chris, I'm sure most of these guys already know where to find your channel, but if they don't.
Yeah, Lindy, you mentioned a couple of good things. Good to see you as well, always, Lindy, especially on Mondays. And hit the, we never say that. Cal, I know Cal doesn't care about likes, but yeah, hit the like button for Cal, man. Definitely hit the like button for Cal. All my stuff can be found over on YouTube at Crispy Cap and 2 P's 2 N's. We're back to doing the 7:30 a.m. shows in the morning. So wake that ass up and come cap the games with Chris. And I will see you there tomorrow morning. We'll be live bright and early. Appreciate you, Kyle.
I like this comment here. Lindy's channel is either going to blow up or die on the back of Nurkic.
Oh, I mean, nuclear Nurkic. It's so unbelievable that it's going to happen. Here's the thing: if Diabate plays, nothing I said matters.
Right. Yeah. But if he's ruled
I know
out,
context is really hard for YouTube chat to understand sometimes.
That's
but
a fact, Lindy. That's a fact.
Keep it in check. Nurkic going to go just berserk today.
So if you have your Twitter noties on and you see Diabate ruled out, go hammer Nurkic overs immediately. Got it. All right, I got a couple of gentlemen. Enjoy your night. I got a couple of college basketball games queued up, but Toast is on I don't know where Toast is, but he can't make it. So we'll just run a poll real quick, do it for 2 seconds, see what you guys think about these games. The first one is North Carolina at Clemson. It seems like, just judging by what I heard, I saw Trevor in the Discord saying Van de Bosch. It seems most of the people in our group are leaning towards the Clemson side of things. I personally don't have an opinion. I know North Carolina's pretty trash, but it seems like most people like Clemson here. Again, you guys, I'm not doing deep handicaps on these college basketball games, so I can't really. I just figure we'll put up a poll and see what you guys think, because I can't really give you like a deep dive on this. See what everyone thinks here. Probably we'll just put the poll up. TWD's on Clemson. Juice is on Clemson. Benny, okay. North Carolina? Graben's North Carolina money line. I like it. I'll be down to fade everybody. None like me. Clemson. Ruben says over and Clemson. TWD says, if you bet heels, I'm sorry. Talk about a letdown spot. This is the definition of a letdown spot from Trev. For who, Trev? Wait, hold on. Who's the letdown spot? Who specifically he's talking about? Let me pull it up. Letdown spot for Clemson coming off the Duke. Right. Coming off the big game against Duke. Sit down, be humble. I did like that part of the halftime show. The be humble part. I kind of like North Carolina. What's Trev on? Trev says it's a letdown spot. USC must have game. He's like speaking in symbolism.
Speaking fucking hieroglyphics.
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't know the rest of his thoughts. Clemson let down after knocking off Duke. You got to hit the eyeball next to Lindy's camera because it's frozen.
I was gonna say, why is Lindy's ass still
because
there,
if someone leaves, it's just gonna it's trying to find. There you go.
There's toast.
All right, so I'll go North Carolina there.
Okay. You're gonna ride with the heels?
Yeah, I like Trevor's symbolistic message. Letdown spot, UNC game. So yeah, put up North Carolina for me. But I guys, I don't know if I'm actually betting. I'm just whatever. Let's go to the next game. Baylor, Houston. This one I can speak a little more. I'm a little more familiar with this Baylor team. So good news. Both Roach and I believe Edgecombe are both playing in this game. Those are two of Baylor's more important pieces, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Good news. So Baylor's got their offensive pieces. Bad news, Baylor's going to be without, and I can't say his name. It's a tough last name to pronounce, but he's their big defensive center. He was the guy they had. He got into foul trouble against Kansas early, and that might have been part of the reason they were struggling. So he's an important piece on the defensive side of the ball. So Baylor is missing. Baylor's got Roach and Edgecombe back. Both those guys were banged up. It looks like they're both going to play, but they're missing a big interior defensive piece. So tell me we shouldn't go with a sneaky over here. And I know taking an over at 132.5 in a Houston game in Houston is crazy because Houston just doesn't give up points. I mean, I think this is a sneaky spot to go over here. Let's see what the comments think on this one.
What do you think, Toast?
Toast has the over, by the way. You could put over up for his pick. Let me scroll up. Baylor keeps it close from Sheed. AM is on Houston minus 8.5. Tinker's on North Carolina, by the way, for the last game.
The Tinkersman?
Vibe with Ants on Baylor. He says Houston never covers. TWE's on Houston. Wait, no, Omir. No, not Omir. Sheed, not Omir. It's the number 17, the big guy. I think his name also starts with an O, if I'm being honest. It's not Omir, though. Omir's playing. It's the big number 17. Baylor. I took
Josh
the over.
Ojuwana?
What's up?
Is that kid's name Josh Ojuwana?
Yeah.
It's your boy Slothy said Josh Ojuwana.
It's your boy Slothy. Thank you. It's your boy Slothy. That's the guy. That's the guy who's out. Olojuwana, who's their big defensive piece. So yeah, I go over or maybe I think over, or I'd probably lean towards the Baylor side. But yeah, that's how I feel about these two games. Sorry I couldn't give you more on the college basketball front, but we'll be back at midnight tonight. Toast will be back. I think Trev's going to be with us, Vanderbosch. So we'll be back midnight normal time, and we'll go through tomorrow's stuff. But as far as today, we were just a little shorthanded. That's all. So, yeah, see everyone at midnight. We'll talk some college basketball for Tuesday night. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Let's go Nuggets. Give me my dog walk of the night here. Yeah, bet responsibly. New week starting for the league today. So if you want to get in the league this week, you got 1 hour and 49 minutes to submit. If that's for people that are subscribed to the website and in the Discord. So if you're interested in that, make sure you submit by 7 p.m. Eastern time. You have 1 hour, 49 minutes. If you miss tonight, you can still join tomorrow and get in on this week, but you'll have to start 0-3 minus 2 units because every pick you miss counts as a loss. That's how it works. So if you want to get in on this week, it's $150 and a trophy go to the winner every single week. So, yeah, you got an hour, 48 minutes. Everyone, thanks for watching. See you all at midnight. Bet responsibly. Hit me up in the Discord if you need me. Good night.
They go to respectfully.